Chapter 1. The First Spark. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and drop a like. In the early months of 2029, one of the world's most prominent technology companies found itself at the center of what would become the most significant lawsuit in the history of neurotechnology. NeuroTech Industries, a corporation that had spent the last decade pioneering brain-computer interface technology, was suddenly facing allegations that would shake the very foundations of the tech industry. The experiments conducted in their state-of-the-art laboratories in Silicon Valley had been the subject of heated debates among ethicists and scientists for years, but this time the controversy had escalated to an unprecedented level. Dozens of former employees, researchers, and test subjects had come forward with disturbing claims about the company's research practices. They alleged that NeuroTech had systematically pushed certain experimental procedures far beyond the boundaries of what was ethically acceptable, violating both federal regulations and basic human rights. The lawsuit, filed in the Northern District of California, contained over 3,000 pages of documentation, witness testimonies, and internal company communications that painted a troubling picture of corporate overreach and scientific misconduct. Chapter 2. The Dark Allegations. The lawsuit documents revealed a complex web of unauthorized experimentation that had allegedly been ongoing for nearly 3 years. According to the plaintiff's attorneys, brain activities of numerous volunteers who had participated in what they believed to be standard clinical trials had been secretly recorded, analyzed, and stored without their knowledge or consent. These recordings weren't limited to simple neural patterns. They included detailed maps of memory formation, emotional responses, and even subconscious thought processes. More disturbing still were the testimonies from former participants who claimed to have experienced permanent and unexplained changes in their cognitive abilities and personality traits long after the neural interface devices had been surgically removed from their brains. Sarah Chun, a 34-year-old software engineer who had volunteered for a study on treating chronic depression, testified that she began experiencing vivid memories of events that had never happened to her. These false memories were so realistic and detailed that she initially believed they were suppressed childhood experiences surfacing due to the treatment. Another participant, Marcus Rodriguez, a 28-year-old veteran who had enrolled in a program designed to treat PTSD, reported even more alarming symptoms. After his device was removed, he claimed to hear whispers in Russian and Mandarin, languages he had never studied or been exposed to. Medical examinations showed unusual activity in the language processing centers of his brain, but doctors were unable to explain the phenomenon or reverse it. Chapter 3. Corporate Defense Strategy. NeuroTech's legal team, led by the prestigious law firm of Morrison, Blake & Associates, mounted an aggressive defense against these allegations. The company's attorneys argued that the lawsuit was nothing more than a coordinated attack by anti-technology activists and competing corporations seeking to slow down scientific progress and damage NeuroTech's market position. They claimed that all participants had provided informed consent and that any side effects were clearly outlined in the extensive documentation provided to volunteers. The company's chief legal officer, Janet Morrison, held a press conference outside the courthouse where she stated that NeuroTech had always operated within the bounds of federal regulations and industry standards. She emphasized that breakthrough technologies often carried risks and that the company had made significant efforts to minimize potential harm to participants while advancing treatments that could help millions of people suffering from neurological conditions. However, public sentiment was rapidly turning against the company. Major news outlets began running investigative reports with headlines like "Who Owns Your Thoughts?" and "The Battle for Mental Privacy." Social media campaigns using hashtags like #MyBrainMyRights and #NeuroEthics gained millions of followers worldwide. The controversy even reached international audiences when the BBC aired a documentary titled The Mind Miners that examined the broader implications of unregulated neurotechnology development. Chapter 4. The Courtroom Drama. When the trial officially began in September 2029, the federal courthouse in San Francisco became the epicenter of a global media frenzy. Judge Patricia Williams, a respected jurist with over 2 decades of experience in technology-related cases, presided over proceedings that would be closely watched by legal experts, ethicists, and policymakers around the world. The plaintiff's legal team, led by renowned civil rights attorney David Park, presented their opening arguments with dramatic flair. They argued that NeuroTech had violated the most fundamental aspect of human autonomy, the privacy and integrity of conscious thought. Park told the jury that the company had essentially turned human participants into unwitting test subjects in experiments that could permanently alter their personalities, memories, and cognitive abilities. The defense countered by portraying NeuroTech as a pioneering company whose groundbreaking research was on the verge of revolutionizing treatment for depression, paralysis, and other debilitating conditions. They argued that the alleged side effects were either coincidental or the result of pre-existing conditions that participants had failed to disclose during the screening process. As testimony began, the courtroom atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Former NeuroTech employees took the stand to describe a corporate culture that prioritized rapid advancement and profit over participant safety and ethical considerations. Chapter 5. The Whistleblower's Testimony. The trial's most dramatic moment came when Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a former senior researcher at NeuroTech, took the witness stand as a key whistleblower. Mitchell had spent 5 years working on the company's most sensitive projects before her conscience compelled her to come forward with evidence of systematic misconduct. With her hands visibly trembling as she was sworn in, Mitchell began to describe what she had witnessed in NeuroTech's classified research facilities. She testified that the company had been conducting a secret program called Project Consciousness that went far beyond the stated goals of their public research initiatives. This program involved creating detailed neural maps of participants' brain activity patterns, including their memories, emotional responses, and even their dreams. According to Mitchell's testimony, NeuroTech had developed sophisticated algorithms capable of extracting and analyzing personal memories from the neural data they collected. The company was building a comprehensive database of human consciousness patterns that could potentially be used to predict behavior, manipulate emotions, or even implant false memories in future subjects. The most chilling aspect of Mitchell's testimony involved her description of unauthorized experiments conducted on participants who were told they were receiving standard treatments. She described cases where researchers had deliberately triggered specific emotional states in subjects and recorded their neural responses for analysis. In some instances, participants were exposed to subliminal messages or false sensory inputs, while their brain activity was monitored and recorded. Chapter 6. Global Implications. As news of Mitchell's testimony spread around the world, governments and regulatory agencies began launching their own investigations into neurotechnology companies operating within their jurisdictions. The European Union immediately announced a moratorium on all brain-computer interface research pending the development of comprehensive regulatory frameworks. The World Health Organization called for an emergency session to discuss the ethical implications of neurotechnology and the need for international standards. Stock markets reacted violently to the unfolding scandal. NeuroTech's share price plummeted by 70% in a single day, wiping out billions of dollars in market capitalization. Other companies involved in similar research also saw their valuations crater as investors fled the entire sector. The technology-heavy NASDAQ index experienced its worst single-day decline in over a decade. Meanwhile, advocacy groups and civil liberties organizations rallied behind the lawsuit, viewing it as a crucial battle for cognitive freedom and mental privacy rights. Protests were organized in major cities across the United States and Europe, with demonstrators carrying signs reading, "Our minds are not for sale," and "Protect neural privacy." Chapter 7. The Verdict and its Aftermath. After 6 months of testimony, deliberation, and legal arguments, Judge Williams delivered a verdict that would reshape the landscape of neurotechnology regulation forever. The court ruled decisively in favor of the plaintiffs, finding that NeuroTech had indeed violated federal regulations and basic human rights through their unauthorized experimentation programs. NeuroTech was ordered to immediately cease all unauthorized data collection activities and destroy any neural data that had been collected without explicit informed consent. The company was also required to pay damages totaling $4.7 billion to affected participants and fund long-term medical monitoring for anyone who had been involved in their research programs. More significantly, the case established important legal precedents regarding neural privacy and cognitive autonomy. The court recognized that human consciousness and mental activity deserve the same privacy protections as other forms of personal data, if not stronger ones. In the aftermath of the verdict, Dr. Mitchell used her newfound prominence to establish the Institute for Neural Ethics, a nonprofit organization dedicated to ensuring that future developments in neurotechnology would respect human dignity and individual autonomy. She worked closely with lawmakers and international organizations to draft the Global Neural Rights Declaration, a comprehensive framework for protecting mental privacy and cognitive freedom in an age of advancing brain-computer interface technology. The NeuroTech case became a turning point in the relationship between technology and humanity, establishing that the human mind remains the final frontier of individual privacy and autonomy that must be protected at all costs.